I'm good at behind the scenes. Okay, so I would like to also introduce you all to Karla from Star Supply, who's going to talk about. And Star Supply has been around the valley for a long time, and if you've never been in there, you're really missing out. I'm excited to have her tell us more about their company and all the things that happen there. It's much more of a, well, I'll let her, I don't want to talk about it. Karla, if you please come up and tell us all about it, and we will get you hooked up with your visual stuff, which I forgot to put in there. There's going to be a lot of editing that I do later because I forgot. Do you have anything you wanted to put on the screen, Karla? You're good.
We're not that high tech.
All right, you go.
We just
You
talk.
go. That's perfect. Even better.
Okay, so good afternoon. My name is Karla, and I am the general manager of Star Supply on Mahoning Avenue. This is Brigitte. If you come to Star Supply, you will probably see her first, and you may not see me at all, but I'm there. As I was considering what I was going to talk about today, I thought I should start by just giving you a brief history of Star Supply to tie in the reduce, reuse, and recycle, so it's a little bit easier to understand from our retail viewpoint. Star Supply was formed in 1968 by my former boss, the late Richard Rosenbaum. Richard came to the Valley by the way of New York and later Newcastle, Pennsylvania. But make no mistake, the Valley was his home. He loved the Youngstown area, and he loved the local art and business scene. If any of you knew Richard, or you met him, or you have ever heard anything about him, this story will make perfect sense to you. And if you didn't, it'll give you a small understanding of his early business model, which is still growing today. He once told me a story about his earliest days in business. Back then, in the late 60s, his store mirrored what was going on in the Valley at that time. He had a small storefront with mostly farm and industrial machinery, big, monstrous machinery, heavy-duty pieces and parts, and old and very old. And by his own admission, he wasn't always sure what they were, but they looked interesting. These pieces were typically rounded up by local people as farm equipment changed and as the steel mills moved into newer, more efficient production. The interesting thing was that he didn't really have a market for the pieces as they were. What he recognized early on was what he did have were customers who needed parts. So a spring from a piece of machinery that was bought was used as a replacement spring for something else. If someone needed a big bolt, they would come down to the store and find one out of one of those pieces of machinery and apply it to whatever they were building or fixing. And he found he could essentially part out these pieces. This was the birth of the reuse model of Star Supply. 54 years later, through the hard work and the dedication of Richard and now his wife Connie, Star Supply still stands in the same community in the Mahoning Commons. It's a family-owned small business, but it's become an integral part and a landmark of the Mahoning Avenue corridor. We proudly carry on the legacy of Richard as we meet the retail needs of our community in a fair, fun way with merchandise that serves real needs. Reuse covers a large part of what we do. What industry and manufacturing may see as disposable, we see differently. Our customer base is typically really creative. With that in mind, I and Brigitte, but we're constantly looking for things to use as the closeout merchandise in our business. As you drive down Mahoning Avenue, you've seen this. We're a big green corrugated steel warehouse. Outside, our fencing are actually panels that are leftover frames from steel cut from CNC manufactured parts. That's just the outside. Come on in. Inside, you'll find surplus hydraulic tank ends, which are used for backyard fire pits. Brand new electrical company surplus brackets and braces, aluminum plates from chair manufacturing that finds uses as 100 different things. Star Supply even has kids' toys from manufacturers in Twinsburg who ended up with more packs of included toys than bases to sell them with. We typically try to source our closeouts locally. We currently have thousands of brand new indoor and outdoor pillows and cushions from a local manufacturer. Those are brand new. They're A-grade pillows that were going to be disposed of for the lack of warehouse space. Our windows are mismeasures or canceled orders from a local manufacturer. They're brand new, but disposable to the manufacturer because dismantling and shredding for recycling is their only other feasible option. Star Supply works hard on stepping in before that happens. We try to turn the recycle into reuse now and recycle later. This allows the pipeline changes to occur prior to the result of recycling. Obviously, there are still economic and environmental costs to the recycling process. STAR is a proponent of the entire process, but our hope is that while quality items are being reused, advancements to local recycling are still being made. This means that when these items are eventually recycled, advancements that are always occurring in transportation, handling, and the actual recycling process itself make the footprint of these items even smaller. We see this as serving the real needs of our customers, keeping ourselves and our vendors accountable, and being responsible stewards of our business. We buy our steel and aluminum from a few different sources in Ohio and Pennsylvania. We're always looking for closeouts. Star Supply carries a wide range of plate, sheet, shapes, including rod and tubing. We often have manufacturers who will call us with information on their drops. For example, a company or industry may place an order with the steel company, and each piece they need may be 4 feet by 8 feet. But when those pieces are cut for the customer, there may be a small leftover piece called a drop. That's what we want. Instead of those going back into the system and being melted back down, we'll take those, sell them to the consumer, and now they're put back into reuse. Typical homeowners don't need a 4 foot by 8 foot piece of steel. We have them, but typically homeowners aren't buying those. They want those little small pieces just to patch something. We recently had a local company that called us because they had a design change, and we ended up with 5,000 steel 4-inch by 4-inch swivels. They go on the bottom of a swivel seat bar stool. They were going to have to pay to dispose of them. Perhaps those items would have been recycled, or perhaps they would have found their way back into the market some other way, but perhaps they would have ended up in a landfill. We find that some large companies don't want to deal with the retail closeout store because it's simpler and more cost-effective for them to just throw things away. Although our reduce, reuse, recycle may be a little different from others who are here, we are on the retail side of it. Gone are the days of old-fashioned milling machines and lathes, but we still operate in a thoughtful way that fits in cohesively with our local community, and it allows us to continue to be stewards of our business. Thank you.